Okay, this one worked. We are on the air. So we were having trouble getting on the air, but this one worked. And this is A Walk in the Woods at Midnight. And I am Jess. And who are you?
I am Jen.
How are you, Jen?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here. And we talk about scary movies, horror movies, things that go bump in the night. And this week we're talking about The Conjuring.
That's right. So I'll tell you a little bit about this.
Okay.
So The Conjuring was released in 2013. It's part of a larger franchise called the Conjuring universe, which basically this film was pretty successful. So they created, I don't know, maybe 10 more films, which are all based on the this real life couple, and it's Ed and Lorraine Warren. And these two people, they were married. They they did their work in the 70s. They proclaimed themselves demonologists. And
I have a quick question.
yes,
Did they make a living at this?
so they made a living at this. Yeah,
Okay.
they would go out and investigate different occurrences. They were really devout Catholics, and I think that Ed Warren said that he was the only demonologist outside of the church. And I don't know what that means, but I now really want to be a demonologist.
Oh, you want to be a demonologist?
Yes, I would love to do this. I would love to do this. I would love to investigate stuff. And so basically,
Does
you
your
know,
husband know that you want to be a demonologist?
he does not. I have to keep this secret from.
Okay, I
That would
won't
be a
tell him.
secret life.
I won't tell him either.
He's way too scared of horror
Yeah.
and demons, I'm sure. So they would give a lot of lectures, and people would go to those, and a lot of times they would be there because they kind of believed in this stuff or kind of wanted to believe in this stuff or whatever. So they would get work through these lectures. So people would go up to them, much like Lily Taylor did in the film, who she was half of the couple who owned the haunted house. I won't go into that too much just yet, but so the real life investigation, this was based on a true story. There's a ton of wiggle room in there, as we all know, but it was based on a true story. And this was the investigation of a farmhouse that I think their name is Perone or
Yeah.
Quran or something. Yes. So that was a family, husband and wife, and then five girls. And so they were experiencing all of these things. And the Warrens went out there and have, written about it since. And so the wife, the husband is now dead. Ed Warren is now dead, and Lorraine Warren she works as a consultant on these films. She might have just died, actually. I think I just saw that now that we're
Hmm.
we're talking about it.
Okay.
But it's very interesting. There, in real life, the people whose home they use to film The Conjuring in real life, those people are suing or have sued or whatever New Line for because who is the company that made the film, produced the film, because people will go to their house and just like spray paint, you know, pentacles on it and just like crazy stuff. So people would deface their house all the time. So,
That I will say that is a boss house because it is a really neat house right on the water, some kind
oh
of
yeah.
body of water, like a creek or a river or something. It
Hmm.
was really neat. But I mean, I don't know how successful they're going to be in their lawsuit because you sign up to be a house in a Hollywood movie, you are opening yourself up to a whole lot of attention. And I don't
Yes.
know, I don't know how successful they're going to be.
I would recommend people don't allow their homes to be used in movies. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, our house, when I was in third grade, our house was used. The front of it was used in the Clint Eastwood movie Play Misty for Me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we lived in Carmel, and our house, um, I don't know if you remember that movie. It was with Jessica Walters and let's see, I was in no wait, was I in fifth grade or third grade? I can't remember when it was. I feel like maybe I was in third or fifth grade. I can't remember, but there was the front of our house was used, and my mom was really pissed because the crew kept trampling all over her flowers, and they used the inside and the outside of the house directly across the street from us, which was owned by a local sculptor who was friends with Clint Eastwood, and they would put up screens to turn daytime into nighttime.
Oh, wow.
And so it was right around, it was like quarter to three, and it was nighttime around, and Jessica Walters is doing and redoing this shot where she's like drunk and in her little sports car and taking off her top to try and impress Clint Eastwood. And my mom goes out. This is what my dad told me. My mom goes out with her watch and goes to the crew. My son is coming home on his bike at 3 o'clock. If this scene is still going on at 3, I am going to ruin a whole lot of footage for you if this scene is not done by 3. And by God, if that scene wasn't done and the whole thing was pulled down and done, and by the time I got home at 3, they were done for the day. They wrapped it up in 15 minutes.
This story is amazing in so many ways. And how did like so where did you live?
Carmel, California.
Okay, okay. And so okay,
This
so
has
that's
nothing to
not
do with The Conjuring.
it has nothing to do with The Conjuring, but it's incredibly interesting nonetheless. I can't believe I never knew this. We'll probably get back to that one day.
Yeah,
I'll store it away.
it was funny. And then at the end of it went on for about 3 weeks, and then Clint Eastwood came over and he gave my mom. I remember watching in the I was back. I didn't come out. I stayed in the kitchen and watched Clint Eastwood give my mom a check for $500 to compensate her for all the flowers that the crew stepped on, which was a lot of money back in 1969 or whenever it was. But he was very nice, and my mom came away very impressed with the fact that he gave her a personal check to
Did she keep it?
compensate.
Did she cash the check or did she
She
keep
made a copy of it and then she cashed it, but she
Oh,
made a
okay.
copy of it.
$500. I mean,
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
$500 is $500. But she made a copy of it, so she had that souvenir.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I guess then you guys did have a better experience than these, whoever had allowed their house to be used for The Conjuring.
yeah, that's not cool to go up and spray paint stuff on somebody's house. I don't. I feel sorry for them, but that's a remarkable house they live in.
It really is. It's amazing. The land is amazing. And what's interesting is that the story that they when Lorraine Warren in the film, played by Vera Farmiga, when she's researching the history of the home, and she's going through kind of like this map and looking at it, and all of those details that she brings up are true. So there was someone who was, you know, thought to be a witch in the community. There was some weird thing where I think her child died or something, or there was a child in her care who died, and so people were she was sort of like under investigation, but it was, they it was just something that people kind of, it was a rumor. And so but they did say, and I think she was an ancestor of one of the witches, geez, one of the poor women who were
Oh,
hung as witches, um, back in Salem. And so,
but her research, Vera's research, showed that that house was haunted on multiple levels. There was a ton of stuff on separate occasions that went wrong at that house.
yes, yes. And we can even just sum up the plot really quickly before we kind of go into it, although I know
Yeah.
I already cheated. Basically, this is a classic haunted house film. There's what's interesting is I feel like there's nothing really necessarily new in the storyline. A family moves into some big old gorgeous house that they somehow, they couldn't afford, but wow, this one was, there was a deal. And you
Well,
know
the bank foreclosed on it and they bought it from the bank.
That's right, that's right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and so that this family moves in, and then all these supernatural things are happening. That's basically the story. So while there's nothing that while there's nothing that I think has is really new in the story itself, I feel like this movie it's set apart by the way the story is told,
Hmm.
and the acting and the music and everything. I think is just on a higher level that works. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, yeah.
Especially the women, including the little girls and the older girls, the daughters rather, and the
Mhm.
daughter of the Warrens, who plays a big role later in the film. All did a really good job acting.
Yes,
I
yes.
thought the children did a really good job acting.
I think so too. And I want to call out for sure. I want to call out Joey King, who has played Christine. And she was the girl who she had short brown hair. And she was the one who she was in her room at night with her sister. And she was the one who kept getting her leg pulled by
Oh yeah,
some
that was
unseen
weird.
force.
That was a good
Yes.
scene because that was freaky.
This is so I think that, I mean, the way, because I can't remember exact there were a lot of weird things that were happening, but I want to say that was the first thing that was truly like absolutely creepy.
Yeah.
There's no question. This is an angry spirit.
Hmm.
Like you said, there are a lot of spirits in the house, but this spirit of this accused witch is named Bathsheba, which is terrifying in and of itself.
Right.
She, she's sort of this evil force that kind of like haunts all of her land. She sort of curses all of her land, which has since been divided up into parcels, where terrible things keep happening and people keep dying. And this house was kind of like home base. This is where she lived, and there were a lot of murders since then that a lot of them involving children, I think.
Yeah, I there was as far as scares go, there were a lot of good jump scares, and there was as far as I'm concerned, this was a good movie for me to see because it had all that kind of unseen stuff that scares me so much.
Yeah.
So I loved it. Um, I the unseen stuff, and then sort of brief glimpses of stuff that you see. really quickly that nobody else can see, but one kid could see and nobody else can see.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that scares me, and they did a good job with that.
Yes.
Um, and visions of things that those are always good and scary. Lily Taylor getting dragged down the stairs. What did she
Oh,
get dragged down the stairs or just to the? We saw this 2 weeks ago, so I'm having trouble. Did she get dragged to the top of the stairs, or did she get dragged all the way down the staircase?
I think I'm trying to think because she fell down the staircase at one point in the movie, and
Right.
then she was being pulled, I believe upstairs.
Oh, pulled upstairs.
Yeah,
Okay.
when she was starting to sort of become possessed by this spirit
Right.
of Bathsheba. Yeah. Um,
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba.
Just
So
call her
creepy.
Satanica. Um,
Yes. I agree with you though about the jump scares. This I'd seen it before twice,
oh,
and
you
even
had.
yes, yes. I'll watch it probably a million times. I mean, but every time I watch it, I still almost jump out of my chair. And the jump scares are I don't like fruitful. Like they pay off.
Yeah.
They're actually scary things. And so you leap up in the air and you don't feel like an idiot because it was just some door slamming or something. It's like legit scary weirdness. And then I think the style, oh, I should also say this was directed by
Yeah.
James Wan, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Wan. But and he did Saw and he did Aquaman,
Aquaman.
which you
Yeah.
brought up before. And so a lot of the shots that he did were just he held the camera on certain things for such a long time that it just became creepy. One of the
Yeah.
creepiest things that you said, that you mentioned, was the girl when she was in her bed and she was looking at this shadow. Because you mentioned like there were things, and your brain. We've all done this where we've woken up in the middle of the night for one reason or another, and we look into the darkness and we're trying to, and because our brains like you'll see something and our brain like automatically tries to make something out of it that we know
Yeah.
and are familiar with. And so and we see it and then we're like, oh, it's just a chair with clothes all over it, whatever, and then you go back to sleep. This was this girl looking into the darkness and actually slowly realizing that she's seeing this shape in the dark, which is an actual figure
Yeah.
in the room behind the door in the
Right.
darkness. that that like that whole scene, I think that and everything that kind of comes after it is absolutely terrifying. It's
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying.
It is. I thought it was super terrifying, and that's why I liked it so much because it was genuinely terrifying. Um, and then there was that one scene where on top of the dresser, um, the one girl could see. Now we didn't see too many apparitions,
Hmm.
but this one girl saw an apparition of this kind of disfigured girl on top of the dresser.
That was
And
the witch.
oh, that was the
That
witch.
was the witch. Yes,
Oh,
that
okay.
was Bathsheba.
That was Bathsheba. Okay, I did not pick up on that.
Yeah, yeah, because later, like the same fate. Actually, I could be wrong, but I think I read that they used the guy who like created the score for the movie. I forgot his name. But he deserves Joseph Bishara. He they like made him up to be the witch
Oh, they did.
for the film. Yes. So you see her on top of the this creepy wardrobe. She
Wardrobe. Yeah.
jumps down, yes, on one of the girls, and then
It was a
later,
wardrobe that was also an entrance to hell that, you'd
yeah,
open it up and you'd go through the closet and there'd be nothing there. And then somebody else would open it up and they'd open it up and it'd be a secret passageway that was a hidey hole for this kid from the 40s who was also haunting the house, and
And
who,
also dressed unnecessarily creepy even
yeah,
for the time, like Eddie Munster or something.
yeah, exactly. And you could see him in a music box at the end of the song. He'd be in, this was creepy. You could see him in the mirror at the end of the song. You look over your shoulder, but he wasn't there, but he was there in the mirror. And this is the kid that hid in the hidey hole. And that, and then so the witch is on the thing, and she attacks one of the girls and fights with the girls, and but nobody else can see her, and that's what I love, that only this one girl could see her. And the dad comes home from a long trucking drive. He's a trucker, and he goes into this scene of utter chaos, like the girl getting attacked, the girls are all screaming, get her off, and the dad's going, can somebody tell me what the hell's going on here?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Yes, that was insane. And that wardrobe was kind of like I don't know, it was sort of ground zero, but then
yeah.
also I guess like so was the basement ish. But that wardrobe, and I mean, this is a famous scene that has been talked about a million times. But the girls play a game called hide and clap, where
Oh
it's like hide and
yeah.
seek, but it's like you clap. So the person, it's like a hint as to where people are, and they have to follow the sound of the clap to the person. They get 3 claps. And so the mom is home with the littlest one. Everyone else is off at school.
Yeah.
And
Let me
yeah,
just say, hide and clap, not a good idea in like a 3-story house that has stairs like everywhere. And that seems like a very dangerous game, but go ahead.
I absolutely agree. So it's precarious to begin with. And then I mean, we're spoiling this movie anyway, right? I mean, we've already gone in.
Yeah, we've already
We've
spoiled it.
already we dove in. But at one point, Lily Taylor, who plays the mother, um, is playing this with her youngest daughter, who's just like, "Oh, please, let's play." And the mom's like, "Ugh, all right." So they do it, and she's looking for her. She's blindfolded, and she's sort of looking for the daughter, and she hears claps coming from
Oh
the
yeah.
room, and then she asks for the second clap or the third clap maybe. And the wardrobe, she's in the room with the wardrobe, she's blindfolded, the doors on the wardrobe open, and there are hands that come out of the wardrobe from behind the clothes and clap. And she goes to the wardrobe and is like, looking for her, and then she hears her daughter come in behind her,
Yeah.
like saying like, "Oh, you gave up, I won." And she's like, "Oh my God," like, like looking through the clothes. So it's
That was a good freaky moment.
there are so many things like that where, it's like, what's probably, what's going to happen. You're like, okay, here's a scary scene coming up. But the way that but the music and the timing of everything, and then Lily Taylor's acting, and
Yeah.
it just comes together so gorgeously that it feels new.
Yeah. Um, Before we get into the couple things we didn't like,
Mhm.
I wanted to touch on the what I think was kind of the scariest part, is that the Warrens, the ghost hunters or the demonologists, have a daughter that lives, I don't know how, they live like a couple hours away from this haunted house,
Mhm.
and they have that whole memorabilia. They have all this memorabilia from all their demon hunting, including the Annabelle doll, which apparently there's a movie made of it.
Mhm.
Um, Now, first of all, I am not, no matter how confident I am in my demonology abilities, I'm not having Annabelle the doll in my house. I will build a shed next to it that is blessed by every church on the planet, and Annabelle can stay there. I'm not having that in my house. But there's like all kinds of evil things that they keep as souvenirs from all these
And
cases they've solved.
they contain the demons. Like they had to
Yeah,
remove them, and sort of like the spirit can't, like they've trapped the spirit in this thing, but like no one can touch it, and it's all very controlled and in cases. And yes, that's super creepy. I, of
yeah.
course, would love to have a museum like that. I think it would be very cool, but I would definitely be scared of it, but I would also be obsessed with it. Um, so I think, but there are things in there that that do turn up in other movies, like Annabelle, which I believe was filmed after this one. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
so. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was. But so the little daughter's not allowed in that room, and to just sort of shorten it up, the um the entity that haunts the witch that haunts um the other house somehow tacks on to the Warrens and starts haunting the little girl at their house. Now,
yeah,
that started really freaking me out, and I've totally spoiled the movie now, but that really freaked me out that she started getting haunted. And I mean, the panic in the Warrens was obvious because now they realized that they were getting haunted. They were, it got really personal for them, and uh, it got really personal, and it really had to get solved fast. They had to exorcise this demon from the house, or it was going to consume them in their house.
yes, yeah. And that happened. I think that link was created by the locket that the daughter had given
Right,
the mom. And so the daughter had one with her parents in it. Her mom had one with the daughter in it. And at one point, when the mom was down in the basement feeling, all of these evil spirits, she ran up the stairs. And because I think she was being pursued by one of them, and
yeah,
it caught on something and broke off, and she hadn't realized it. And so that's when she goes outside, and she's freaking out, and she's looking in the water, and she sees that vision of her daughter dead floating through
right,
the water. Yeah.
yeah. So that
Oh,
was, I mean, there was a lot of terrifying aspects to this movie, and I liked it a lot. A lot. I can firmly recommend this to anybody that we haven't spoiled it for already that hasn't seen it. But there was one thing that did bother me. I don't know if it bothered you. I think we kind of talked about it uh, a few times, but the women in this movie, all of the women, including the children, especially the children, were very strong actors.
hmm,
The children were very believable. The women were very strong actors, but I felt the men, and we left out the sort of ghost hunting uh, camera, the where they set up cameras in the house to try and capture some of the ghosts on film.
yeah,
Those actors were not. I mean, there was like a, a young Asian guy that was he was a terrible actor. I thought the young Asian guy that was part of the crew. There was a cop who wasn't much of an actor, but Patrick Wilson and Ron Livingston, they kind of took me out of the movie a little bit because uh, Patrick Wilson's New Jersey accent was not convincing at all.
yeah, yeah. Was it
I think
was
it was
it
a
a New
Jersey.
Jersey, or was it Maine? It was definitely, though, East Coast of some kind.
Oh, it
But
was Maine. If it was Maine, it was even worse.
and it kind of went in and out.
Yeah,
It was yeah, it was weird. I mean, they were I couldn't agree with you more. I think the women were incredibly strong
yeah,
actresses. Um, and Patrick Wilson, I thought, was just both of the main male actors, I thought, were pretty um wooden, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
they kind and you know, I think they certainly took a back seat to the women they were with, but it can still, I feel like it can still be done well. I feel like poor Ron Livingston was just walking around like, you know, with his jaw gaping. I don't know. He was just sort of like there, and he was like, what's going on here? I don't know. He kind of just, he did pull me out of it. I was like, what, you know, and I think it was just his talent level in this, at least, was really kind of um, the the contrast between his acting level and like Lily Taylor's acting level, I think, was just heightened because she was right next to him, you know,
Yeah.
doing acting with him, and he kind of,
To
I don't
be
know.
to be fair to him, I don't think much was asked of him because this was really Lily Taylor and the girls' film, where because everything happened to them.
Yeah,
Nothing happened to him. He nothing really. He wasn't targeted for attack or anything. He wasn't possessed, so nothing really happened to him. So he didn't really he didn't nothing was really asked of him
nothing. What, you're right,
that
but I mean,
that I can think of.
but here's what I would feel like was going on, and I saw hints of this, which he kind of just didn't pick up, you know, and run with, where really it's like your family is in absolute danger and chaos, and it's incredibly real, and you're absolutely impotent. You can't, there's nothing you can do. You don't know anything. And then you get these people who come in, and especially like the Patrick Wilson character, who can actually do something about it, you know. And I think the girls kind of were feeling close to him. You see the little girl, that little girl, like bring him pancakes, and they really
Yeah.
kind of, they really kind of like are bonding with him and seeing him as the strong male figure in the house. And I feel like Ron Livingston could have done way more with that. And I thought it was kind of interesting too, because at one point Patrick Wilson continues this sort of manly overtake when he's like fixing the car that Ron Livingston
Oh
has.
yeah, that's right.
And they're having this conversation, and I'm like, why isn't he kind of like, you know, like really kind of showing a little bit of anguish or jealousy or something? I felt like he could have done something that he just wasn't doing.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. I sort of did not I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, it's, you know, he's a better actor than I am, so I mean, I don't wanna, like, go
Well,
crazy on
I
him.
don't know about that. We haven't seen you act yet, so
That's true. I haven't seen me act yet, but yeah. Yeah, so, so I think, you know, I definitely think there's something to be said for, you know, for really kind of, like, trying to take a small role and own it really well, but
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So, and I know we talked a little bit about some actors that we would cast instead of the men, and I know you mentioned that you probably would just, you would want to cast some unknowns. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I'd rather, since everybody else was unknown to me, I think I'd rather just have a couple of unknowns because that's what I really love about the independent movies we watch and the foreign films we watch is that I don't know the characters and it makes it more believable.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
the more famous movies that we watch, uh, I'm sorry, the higher budget movies that we watch with the more famous actors, the less inclined I am to be scared because I know it's a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
So I would rather they just be unknowns, and but I so that way I would tend to be more scared. But did you have some people in mind for the two dads?
I did. So I thought like I would probably have cast, dream cast, if I could cast someone for the Ron Livingston role, who was played the dad, I would cast John Goodman. I think he would have been really nuanced
Uh huh.
And I think that what would have been cool about him is that he just, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking of him in Roseanne, which is one of my favorite shows ever. And I just feel like he has this capability to him, or this masculine sort of energy, that would have been really interesting to see him kind of deal with, see him kind of grapple with, like, kind of losing, or thinking he's losing or something.
Yeah.
Um, so that's my dream cast for that character, and my dream cast for the Patrick Wilson character would be. I would have loved for like Liam Neeson to play him. I think it would have been really, I think it would have been like really awesome, because I kind of like, I feel like he has a gravitas that he
Yeah.
would bring to this film, that would have been like really believable. However, I will say this. I looked up a little bit more about this couple, Lorraine and Ed Warren, and I saw some photos of them, and wow, like, they look nothing like these people. It's funny because it's like the guy looks sort of like the real Ed Warren is sort of like, he has a beer belly, and he's like wearing a toupee and like mirrored sunglasses. And I know this was the 70s, but it's like all those things combined were sort of like, it was kind of like Danny DeVito, but sort of with rounder features or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it was him, and his wife was, at least the photo that I saw, she was much older than
And didn't she have like an updo kind of thing?
she did. It was really
Yeah.
weird, like, she had sort of claimed to be clairvoyant, and maybe is or was, for all I know, and then, the guy, Ed Warren, he seemed to just sort of get into it, and he bought all this equipment and, like, black lights and all this. So, a lot of people kind of looked askance at them, because
Yeah.
they sort of looked like, kind of like crooks in a way, and so
Oh.
after seeing that, I was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't maybe cast those people, but whatever. But it was interesting, and I think there was some weird thing with Ed Warren, like, they lived with like some 15-year-old runaway, and they maybe had a romantic relationship. It was so creepy and weird. And so anyway, knowing all of this, I was kind of just like, ew, I don't want to read anymore, because I want to like this
Oh,
movie.
wow. Maybe Patrick Wilson's okay after all.
He might be okay after all. He was I can say that he seems like he would be a massive improvement over
You know,
the
you use that word impotent for Ron Livingston. Maybe the role called for him to be kind of powerless and impotent.
I think it did, and I don't think he sort of communicated that as much as he should have.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was kind of saying. Like, we
Okay.
should have seen it in his face, that it was like draining away, and he was, and there's like maybe a jealousy toward the Patrick Wilson character. I don't know, but I wanted
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
something. I want his face to do something.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, but you obviously liked it. You've seen it 3 times now, and you said you're going to see it a billion more times. So,
probably, yeah.
yeah. So this is one of your more liked films. You're one of your favorite films.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I mean, I'd say it's definitely like one of my favorite contemporary horror films.
Yeah.
Maybe not of all time, but like within the last, I don't know, what has it been, since 2013. It's one of my favorites, kind of
A-
like since then.
And for next week, we're going to watch the Swedish subtitled movie. I found it on not Netflix,
Amazon.
Amazon Prime. Let the Right One In, and that also came from my friend Luis. That suggestion. He's the one that suggested Train to Busan.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And this has been a great discussion. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it is fun to pick these things apart and see what levels we can suss out and just talk movies. Take these scary movies and whittle them down to size so they're not so scary.
That's right.
Of course, it's daylight now, and
It's easy to say, yeah.
yeah, sure.
And then at night, I worry about my leg being pulled by some, unseen witch.
Yeah, exactly. That part did freak me out. Okay, well, thank you for tuning in to A Walk in the Woods at Midnight. I'm Jess, and that's Jen, and we are very happy that you chose to watch. Please feel free to hit the like button. Please feel free to subscribe, and any comments you leave, we are always happy to respond to them. So, as usual, I sign off by saying peace and love, peace and love.